Best friend suddenly told me my sober husband was going to relapse and kill me, and when I tried to have a calm conversation about it, she admitted she never liked him and refused to acknowledge any of our recovery. For context, my husband, 42M, and I, 40F, have been married for 10 years. We met when we were 15 and 17, and neither of us had an easy upbringing. We both came from pretty rough, traumatic backgrounds, and we coped in unhealthy ways, mainly through alcohol. By the time we were together as teenagers, we were already deep into addiction. We dated for about 4 years, and honestly, the relationship was extremely toxic. I won't go into detail, but I think you can imagine what it looks like when two teenagers with unresolved trauma and substance abuse issues try to build a relationship. My best friend has known me literally my whole life, so she saw all of this firsthand. Eventually, my husband and I separated. Over the years, we both got sober independently. We went through rehab, therapy, AA. We stayed apart for a long time while focusing on recovery. We only reconnected years later, when we were both in a much healthier place, and we didn't get married until we were well into stable recovery. Now, my best friend lives in another country for work, so we're long distance. We still talk all the time, messaging almost daily, and I see her once or twice a year when one of us visits. She couldn't come to our wedding back then because of financial reasons, which I completely understood. At the time, my husband and I weren't doing great financially either. Importantly, she has never expressed any concerns about my husband before. Not once. 2 days ago, she was in town and came over to my place. My husband wasn't home because he was at an AA meeting. Yes, we both still attend regularly, even after years of sobriety. It's something we take seriously, and it helps us stay grounded. At first, everything was great. We were cooking together, laughing, catching up. Then she asked where my husband was, and I told her he was at AA. She rolled her eyes and said, "He still goes?" That immediately threw me off. I kind of laughed awkwardly and said, yeah. Of course?" She started going on about how people like that don't really change, and how alcoholics always relapse eventually. She kept saying she was worried about me, that I was putting myself back into a dangerous situation, and that she had seen this before. What really got to me was that she kept talking about my husband like he was still the same person he was as a teenager. She completely dismissed the years of work he's put into recovery, and mine too, honestly. At one point she even started crying, saying I wasn't listening to her and he's going to relapse and kill me. He has never been physically violent. Not even when we're both deep in our addiction. I understand that she probably thinks she's protecting me, but it felt incredibly unfair and honestly pretty insulting. Not just to him, but to me as well. After about 20 to 25 minutes of this, I was overwhelmed and honestly triggered. I told her, as calmly as I could, that I needed her to leave. She looked shocked but didn't argue. She just grabbed her things and left. We haven't spoken since. Now I'm sitting here wondering if I overreacted. Part of me feels like I could have handled it better or tried to de-escalate instead of asking her to leave. But another part of me feels like what she said crossed a line. Comments where Op has replied. Comment 1. I'm an addict and alcoholic myself, 9 years clean and sober. You're not overreacting at all. I'm so sorry about your friend. It sounds like she may need help, herself. The only way I'd continue talking to her is if she apologized without being asked to. Oop, thank you so much. She hasn't messaged me since and I haven't either, but hopefully we can have a conversation soon, as really came out of nowhere. Congratulations on your sobriety. Comment 2, Nor. At best it sounds like she doesn't understand addiction or AA specifically. As I'm sure you know, people with decades of sobriety still attend. I'm also confused why she'd first act like it's ridiculous that he still goes, then completely flips to he's a violent K-year. I'm wondering how supportive of the relationship she's truly been, missing the wedding. Oop, it's true that a lot of people don't really understand AA and think it's about people in active addiction / who are relapsing, while people who have been sober for 20 or 30 years who still go to meetings. I was very shocked by her saying that he'd kill me and be violent physically towards me. He has never and would never put his hands on me, even if he relapses one day. She has been pretty supportive in my opinion, sent us wedding gifts when she couldn't attend and regularly asks about how we're doing, which is why this was so shocking. She talks very well with my husband when he's around and has never expressed any concerns to me. Comment 3, how long has your husband been ever sober? Oop, he has been sober for a bit over 11 years. Update. Firstly, thank you to everyone who commented on my original post. I didn't expect it to get that much attention, but I read through as many comments as I could, and it genuinely helped me organize my thoughts. It's only been 2 days, but a lot has happened in that time. A few people suggested I talk to my sponsor before doing anything drastic, which I did the same day I made the post. He knows both me and my husband pretty well and has seen most of our entire recovery journey, so I trust his perspective. He suggested I try to have a calm conversation with her and focus on explaining how her words affected me, using I feel/I felt statements, which I'm admittedly not great at. So I decided to FaceTime her this morning. It didn't go the way I hoped. She picked up and the first thing she said was, "So have you finally calmed down and moved on from all that?" I still tried to stay calm and told her that I wasn't calling to argue, but to explain why what she said hurt me so much. I told her that the things she said about my husband didn't just affect him, they affected me too, because I'm also a recovering alcoholic who still goes to AA. It felt like she was dismissing both of our recoveries. She started crying again, pretty quickly. Some comments on my last post mentioned the possibility of projection, so I tried to ask her if something had happened, if maybe she had met someone who struggled with alcohol and was violent, or if she was dealing with something she hadn't told me about. She got defensive and said no, and then told me she would never do what I did and be with a man like that. We ended up talking for over an hour, and it mostly went in circles. At one point, she said she only trusts alcoholics she knows, meaning me, because she knows I won't relapse. I pointed out that that's not really how recovery works. There's never a 0% chance for anyone, including me. If anything, that's why we still go to meetings and take it seriously, even after all these years. She also admitted that she's never liked my husband. That part hurt a lot. Over the years, they've had plenty of conversations, joked around, and seemed perfectly fine with each other. She never once expressed any issue before, so hearing that now felt honestly a bit like a betrayal. She kept insisting that she knows how this ends and said she is completely convinced he's going to relapse and kill me because she's seen what he's capable of. For clarity, my husband has never been violent. Not once. Even at our worst, when we were both deep in addiction, he has never raised his voice at me, let alone hurt me. It was mostly just a lot of sadness and crying at that point in our life. Lol. I really tried to meet her halfway because she's been my best friend for over 20 years, but every time I tried, she doubled down. I told her I loved her and that I genuinely hope she's okay, but that I can't have someone in my life who sees me and my husband that way and refuses to acknowledge any growth. Then I told her I wished her the best and hung up. So yeah. That's where things stand with this whole thing. It really hurts, but I think some of you are right. Sometimes people get stuck seeing a version of you that doesn't exist anymore, and no matter what I say, she won't change her views. I guess I just didn't expect that from her. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to comment. It meant more than I can really explain. Comment where Op has replied, comment, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Her behavior is really bizarre and nonsensical to me. Saying she only trusts addicts she knows doesn't even make sense because she knows both of you. And if she felt this strongly, she should have spoken up years ago. You handled this situation so well and gave her every opportunity to hear you. I hope she comes around, but either way, good on you for protecting your and your spouse's well-being. Oop, I'll really never understand why she chose to bring this up 10 years into my marriage if she's always felt this way. Thankfully my husband is here for me through this. Losing friends is hard, but I'm convinced I made the right decision when I see how sweet he is with me. Oop response to another commenter. Thank you for taking your time to write this. For your first point, I still speak to most people who were in my life when me and my now husband were actively drinking, and none of them ever had anything bad to say about him. My husband wasn't a very great person when he was actively drinking, but he has never done anything physically, or verbally for that matter, violent to anyone. He actually struggles quite a bit with being able to be firm with people, even those who cross his boundaries. Lol. He's a big softy at heart. He still speaks to 99% of the people who knew him during that time, and most of them also only have good things to say about him in his recovery, so I don't think anyone could have told her otherwise. I'm 99% sure she didn't mean that he dragged me back down into alcoholism if he ever relapsed, as she made other comments about him possibly hitting me while being drunk. There is a possibility that she may have been triggered by us possibly having a big change in our life. We talked about having children for a bit and I shared that with her. We did end up deciding it wasn't the best idea for us, as we're very focused on our career and don't want to bring a child into a life where we can't give them 100% of what they deserve. But that was almost a year ago, so I'm not sure why that would resurface now. As for your last point, my alcoholism definitely affected her as well during our younger years. I won't make the claim that she was traumatized by it, as she's never used that word for herself, so I don't want to put a label on it that wouldn't be appropriate to her experience. I was pretty much a sad alcoholic. All I would do is binge drink in my room alone and cry. Sometimes, while in those binging spirals, I would text/call her a lot for mental support. I will forever feel awful for this, as we were all kids and she shouldn't have had to deal with this. She has gone to therapy about this, and other things. This was just the first reason for going, for years. I recommended it to her when I started my sobriety journey 10 plus years ago and realized the impact my actions had on other people. I hope this wasn't due to her bottling those feelings up and them resurfacing years later, because I've always thought myself to be very open about those things. If she would have come to me about her fears/hidden resentments without blowing up on me, I would have loved nothing more than to reassure her. So what if my husband? Anyways, point is, I don't think I'll ever truly know what was her reasoning for this happening, except if she ever comes back, which, knowing her, I doubt. Thank you again for your kind comment.